Bring in Ambassador Mark Regev, a senior advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Ambassador, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I want to start off right off the bat with this ambitious initial proposal by Egypt and Qatar that was sent to the United States and to Israel. And in this proposal to end this war, it calls for a ceasefire, a phased hostage release, and the creation of a Palestinian government of experts who would administer the Gaza Strip and occupied West Bank. Has the Prime Minister's office, have you all seen this proposal, discussed it, and are you taking it seriously?
No, but I can tell you this. First of all, we thank the Egyptians. They've been playing an important role in helping getting our people out. You know, we have over 130 hostages still in Gaza, and the Egyptians helped us in November to get that first load of hostages out, and they're trying to help us again, and we appreciate their effort. But it's clear that Hamas at the moment has refused to release more hostages, and we think that by beefing up the military pressure on Hamas, by beefing up our military efforts, by destroying their military machine, by taking out their senior commanders, we're placing pressure on them, which makes them more desperate for a timeout, for some sort of temporary ceasefire, and we're willing to give that if they release hostages. So we think the military action is augmenting the release of hostages, we hope, in the near future.
Well, some of these families, you know, you have 129 families who are desperate here for their loved ones. They could look back at the last time that hostages were released, and it was during a ceasefire. Are you willing to say here that a ceasefire is still on the table? Because you have a lot of families who would point out that that was the only reason why some of these hostages were released. They feel like it was because of this ceasefire. Is that on the table for you guys?
I'd remind you, Brian, that in November when it worked, and once again, the Egyptians were helpful then, as was the United States of America. President Biden played a specific role, a definite role in helping us get that ceasefire then, which allowed for the release of hostages. And so we did it then. We could do it in the future. But that ceasefire ended because Hamas refused to release more hostages. Had they released more hostages, names that they had agreed to release, the ceasefire would have been extended. But Hamas said no. So if Hamas wants to release more hostages, I can tell you Israel will play ball. If they are willing to release our people, we are willing to do another ceasefire. But it's all dependent on them. They're not going to get a ceasefire for nothing. We will continue to attack Hamas. We will continue to dismantle their terror military machine. If they want that ceasefire, they must release hostages.
Would you be willing to trust a Palestinian group of government experts to administer the Gaza Strip and the West Bank? Would you be willing to trust a Palestinian group of experts to do that, or is that off the table for you guys?
So I think these are discussions we want to have directly with the Egyptians, with the Americans, with others about what's the future way we rule Gaza. It's clear Israel doesn't want to permanently occupy Gaza. We want to see the Palestinians rule themselves. But as to the precise parameters of that, I'm not sure it's the right moment to talk, because nothing positive can happen until we've defeated Hamas. Because as long as Hamas is in power, as long as Hamas controls Gaza, you're not going to get a better solution. So we've got to destroy Hamas. And once that's done, as my Prime Minister, I believe, wrote today in the Wall Street Journal, after you've destroyed Hamas, we will demilitarize and de-radicalize Gaza. That'll be good for Israelis. That'll be good for Palestinians in Gaza, too.
Ambassador, Israeli soldiers of 156 have so far been killed in this war, 17 since Friday. What is your message to the Israeli people in the world? Are they to expect more casualties, not less, in the coming weeks and months?
Well, it's very difficult, obviously. 156 soldiers killed since our ground operation started. Every morning I wake up and I open my newspaper and I see their pictures on the front page and their names and where they're from. And it's very sad. And every soldier, we reach out to their families and of the bereaved. And it's difficult for Israel. But I think there's an understanding in Israel, wall to wall, that we have to win this war. We didn't want this war. We didn't start this war. But Hamas, after they attacked us and they brutally massacred our people, they beheaded, they burned people alive, they raped and then murdered, they They did the most despicable and disgusting things, atrocious crimes against humanity. The largest act of terrorism since 9/11 that you had in the United States, the largest act of anti-Semitic violence since the Holocaust. We're not going to stand for it. This terror enclave on our southern border must be ended, and we will do so. And we're committed to do so, even if the price is going to be higher still.
Quickly, Ambassador, do you believe the Biden administration will stand by Israel's war effort, particularly in the coming months? Because the Prime Minister is saying here this is going to be months now.
Well, the Prime Minister spoke with the President, I believe it was on Saturday night. I know it was on Saturday night. And shortly after that, the President said that he's not calling on Israel whatsoever to halt its operation. He understands we need to do what we have to do, that destroying Hamas is good for Israel, good for Palestinians, good for peace in the region. And we've been very thankful. The administration has stood us by in word and in deed. The President, he was the one, President Biden, who said that that Hamas is worse than ISIS, a very important statement. He's given us diplomatic support of the United Nations, standing up to the automatic anti-Israel majority there, and he's given us the ammunition we need. We're not asking for American boots on the ground in Gaza. We'll do our own fighting. But he's helped us with ammunition and with other supplies to give us the tools to finish the job.
Senior Advisor to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Mark Regev, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Brian.